This is Whiskey Whereabouts. I'm Tim, and this is the most recent Offerman edition Lagavulin 11 year. And celebrity tie-ins and endorsements are a giant red flag when it comes to spirits and whiskey. There's no way any whiskey that's marketed in this way is going to be any good, right? My whiskey journey has taken me to Scotland and back. I've explored whiskey education, tastings, and distilleries from Islay to Speyside. And now my journey continues here, with you, on Whiskey Whereabouts. So if you don't already know, when I'm talking about Offermans, these are limited edition Lagavulins, and the branding is tied in with the American actor Nick Offerman. He was on a television show called Parks and Recreation, where he played a character who loved Lagavulin, and now he has a partnership with Lagavulin. And these don't come out every year. They started in 2019. The next one was finished in Guinness casks, and that one was from the spring of 2021, I think. Then the most recent one was the Charred oak, and that came out in the fall of 22. And now here we are in the spring of 24 with the latest Offerman release. And in terms of this sort of, it's almost a stigma with the sort of actor and tie-in and all this. I kind of think we're on the fourth one of these, and I think of it as like Madden football video game. It's an American football video game that was sponsored by this broadcaster and coach. And after a while, it just kind of took on a new definition independent of this sponsor. And I think of Offerman Lagavulins now as a name, a category of a limited version of Lagavulin that comes out periodically, so independent of any sort of endorsement. Okay, so talking about this Offerman that's in front of us now, what are we dealing with? 11 year, 46% Lagavulin. Good and good. The packaging says nothing about non-chill filtration, nothing about color added, so we just assume that it's chill filtered and that it has fake color in it despite the ABV. And the sort of premise of this edition is that it is a vatting of bourbon and Oloroso matured Lagavulin. We don't know the ratio or anything more specific about the casks. That was then finished for 8 months in, quote, Caribbean Rum Casks. So not much specificity about those casks. Okay, so my bottle of the Offerman has been open for about a week. You can see we've got the level comfortably sort of below the shoulder here, going in on the nose. Yeah, the first thing that hits you is that very familiar campfire Lagavulin peat smoke. It's right there. And then it's going to be fruit sweet. There's a tropical fruit. There's a citrus, lemon citrus, vanilla cream, definitely. I found the neck pour on this bottle pretty hot for 46%, to be honest. Each time I've had it, it's sort of mellowed a little bit. On this nose, it's not super hot anymore. There was a very strong, almost sort of earthy, vegetal note at the bottom of the nose on the neck pour. What's happened now is it's really, I think it's opened up a little bit and it's really blossomed and is really combining into that tropical kind of fruit note, which is an improvement. It's better. It is sweeter, so you're not getting as much variety, but it is a little bit of a more welcoming note than it was on the neck pour. Here, it still has a saltiness, but it's much more subtle. And the longer you sit with this, let yourself acclimate, let the air kind of interact with it. At the bottom, there's something crisp and clean, minty, sort of all the way at the bottom of the nose. What I'm not getting that you might expect from the rum cask is any sort of real molasses, sort of sugar sweet. The sweetness is pretty traditional sweetness that we expect, sort of vanilla cream. There's some citrus, there's some fruit sweet, but it's not real sugary. It's not even very sherry, kind of brown sugar kind of sweets like that. So let's see on the palate what we're dealing with here. The mouthfeel is pretty weak for 46%. Is that the chill filtration? We don't even know if that's what's going on. It's a little light, and it does present still a little hot for the 46%. So it's a little inconsistent. A lot of black pepper, kind of prickly as it presents. And it was hotter again on the palate with more of the I would say almost like red pepper flakes on that neck pour. So this one has sort of mellowed, and I think you're getting more out of this palate now that it's had time to open up a little bit. And what is that more? Ashy honey is the sort of dominant taste. As the palate develops, the sweetness seems to condense a little, almost caramel. And before neck pour, I remember it being just sort of straight up citrus. As this palate develops, really lime citrus, so that sweetness again coming in. It's a pretty healthy dose of oak. There's some bitter on that palate, but the sweetness is holding its own. The only other element I would say, there's a little bit of sort of vanilla cream residue on that palate, sort of as it develops. It's a little bit condensed, but turned way down relative to those other flavors. Let's see if that carries over into the finish here. Neat. A couple lingering elements, medium long, on this finish. It is vanilla cream, lime citrus, like we've been talking about. Then there is sort of a wave. There's a pinch of the sort of pepper, heat. It's very, very balanced, no problem. Very subtle sort of warming kind of in the chest on that first sort of finish. And a big wave of oaky bitter. Then it continues to develop. Those elements recede, and pleasantly, that sort of the vanilla, the lime sort of comes back. And what you're left with, as I'm talking now, kind of it's the last sort of ghost of it, is a little bit of sense of that sort of cask influence and a little bit of that sort of lime sweet, around, the sides. It's pretty welcoming. It's not a bad finish. It's not anything jarringly out of place. It's not the biggest sort of finish you're going to have out of a bottle with Lagavulin's name on it. We've got some, fruit elements. They blend. It's fine. There's nothing from the rum. It's like, this doesn't work. Why do we have this and smoky kind of Lagavulin? It's all balance, which I appreciate. But it has basically taken this whiskey in a slightly more subtle, softer kind of direction. I did experiment with this, and this one does have some changes when it hits with the water. So I'm going to let this sit for just a second, come back and explain what I mean. Okay, the smoke, that big sort of Lagavulin note, has been washed out. The sweetness has taken on a real chocolate flavor here. So more sweetness, even easier to approach, really not hot now, but we are washing out some of the sort of Lagavulinness when we hit this with the water. Let's see on the palate what happens with the water. This is chocolate now. The citrus has gone orange, so we have sherry sort of influence here, but I think it's just everything is just getting sweeter. Everything is kind of sort of condensing together. There is that ashiness, but it's pretty simple. The water can't get rid of that sort of cask bitter. That tannic bitter is right up front, even with the water. And, the sweetness is still there. That ashiness is still there. So where do I come out with this latest Offerman Lagavulin? I think anytime we have 46% Lagavulin, that's a step in the right direction. I think that the rum casks have been nicely integrated here. We may not think rum cask and Lagavulin are meshed together. It seems to be that they have done this in a very thoughtful way. They've thought about how much time to spend in the rum cask, exactly what type of rum casks they were going to use. We don't know. But they've achieved a very nice sort of complementary integration with these more exotic flavors, which are really manifesting in fruity, sweetness, citrus, tropical fruit. I do think that this is not as much of an impressive sort of experience for me as the last one, the Charred Oak. I think I'm in the minority here, but when I am going to get a limited sort of Lagavulin, I would prefer that Lagavulin and Diageo go big, go bigger, bolder. And that is how that whiskey sort of presented to me. This one is almost the opposite. It's presenting very nicely, but but it's coming in with the sweetness. It's coming in with a little bit, some sort of muted kind of tones in the usual sort of Lagavulin presentation. It's very approachable. It's very drinkable, neat, and it is not a bad whiskey. But I'm going to say 4 glasses in a vacuum is where I would sort of rate this one. They don't last forever, but if you see this being poured, at a bar, definitely want to try. If you enjoy Lagavulin, big peated smoky Islay whiskey, to just experience this sort of intersection with these slightly exotic notes that are coming in from the rum casks, right? One of my complaints about this whiskey is that it is overpriced. It is $100 I paid for this bottle of Lagavulin 11 year. And I can get Port Charlotte 10 year, and I can get, Lefroy quarter cask, $75 or below. And so I'm getting one more year, but I'm getting less ABV than both of those whiskeys. Those are 48 and 50% whiskeys. And I'm still getting chill filtration probably. I'm getting color added. I'm not getting a great presentation. And I paid the same amount for this bottle that I paid for my bottle of Springbank 10 year. So it's a very solid $75 bottle of whiskey that costs $100 because it's Lagavulin and because it's Diageo and all that. So we've got to take into account. So accounting for value in the final rating, I'm going to reduce the rating. It's going to be 3 3/4 glasses Lagavulin 11 year Offerman Caribbean cask. And if you have had any of these, let us know your favorite in the comments. Let us know how you rank them in the comments. And in the meantime, if you haven't subscribed, you can do so. You hit this big button that's going to pop up right over here. That way you won't miss any of the future videos. I will see you on the next one.